Oh, my name is Coleman. I like to make your drinks warm and melt your ice within a day and a half or 2 days, not like the 5 days they say.
Let's change that. Let's make this a better cooler right now. And here's the few items that you need. Caulking, a razor knife, measuring tape, some sort of a straight edge, and of course a cooler. Just measure out your cooler on the bottom and take note of the actual inside of the curves because they are very curvy on the bottom, most of them that I've ever seen. So once I measure them out here, I use my little sander, and you could use a hand sander or just a piece of sandpaper, and then just actually take a little bit off the edge here. Make them a little bit rounded. They fit perfect into the bottom. And there, you can see the finished product. Nice smooth rounded edges, and they fit into the bottom of the cooler perfectly. One thing to make note of is that you want to make sure there's a channel down the middle for the water to escape, and it also keeps all your food or whatever you put in there up out of any water that happens to leak. So after I did that, I cut a V down the center of this piece so that I actually have a channel that goes all the way to the actual outlet of my cooler. And I'm just lucky enough that I chose the cooler that actually has an outlet. And there you can see there, the water will be able to drain right down into the outlet. And I just apply some caulking to the bottom of this and get it all glued into place, and start measuring up the other pieces. One of the ways I like to bring ice is a frozen milk jug, 4 liter. So here I'm just measuring so I have the proper space to get that in and out of there all the time. Just one more thing to watch out for is I want to make sure I have enough room to close the lid, so I'm just doing some testing here to see if I can get the lid closed and make sure those aren't too tall of walls. Also, once I had those walls all in place, I put a big piece in to fill, and then I wanted to see where the cooler actually touched, and then I removed that material. Once that was done, I put all the pieces back together and used my caulking back in to glue them all into place, and then just let it dry. Once that was done, there was some small air gaps between the insulation near the top, and that's fine because air gaps is an extra insulation. Separating the styrofoam from the sidewalls actually would increase its R value, so all I did was just put a little bit of silicone to keep it perfectly spaced so that this didn't move, and get that all wiped up, cleaned up. Okay, so here's what I got. The silicone is all dried up, and now the cooler is ready to go, and here's what we're looking at. So here's what I got. I'm going to fill in a little bit more now that this is dry with the caulking. But when this sits in here now, this will be airtight. This has room for a milk jug frozen, or I can put a whole bunch of cans this way laying down and some ice in here, and then I can keep my milk or cream over here, so I can keep them separate. And I just have a pass through for these holes just for the cool air to go through. So that's where it's at right now. And I just have some water bottles freezing right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 in this one and 2 in an identical one that hasn't been modified. I'm going to put a probe in each one, and then I'll keep track of the temperature. I'm going to keep the lid closed and just see how long the actual ice will stay in there, or the temperature is good and valid. So once the silicone's all dried up, I'll put another little bit in there just to seal up the edges, and then I'll do the test. I bet you I get 3 times as much with this now. Let's try. Okay, this is the baseline with both coolers, modified and regular cooler with no ice. I know this was after about an hour and a half when I had time to stabilize. And this was about 16 hours later. Now getting closer to the 24-hour mark, the unmodified cooler has definitely dropped down, and now I would consider this a warm drink. And by the end of day 2, it was pretty much toast. Now 48 hours, the second bottle started to drop. So basically I got double the time. Okay guys, well that's it. The proof is in the pudding. This $7 fix doubled the temperature. I was able to keep 2 bottles in here for twice as long, and it stayed at 6 degrees flat, where the other one dropped off from 6 to 12 within 18 hours, and then it was completely flat at 15 by 20 hours. This one went 52 hours, and then we're 48 hours at 6 degrees, and then it started to drop down to 52 hours. So this was a win, and I'm going to do some more testing, but that's a simple fix for a cheap cooler to make it last a lot longer. You give it a try. Any insulation would do, as long as it's not water soluble. Give it a try. Thanks guys, thanks for watching.